you hear a lot of people who, one, not only do they not want to do it, but two, a lot of people are traumatized by changing systems.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing of like, how do I get my team on board? How do I keep morale high? How do I make sure that what I'm being told by, a vendor or whoever
Right.
is truthful, and that I'm taking that to my team so they continue to trust me and I can keep them productive.
Super excited to announce the Law Firm Retreat Design Your Future being held this August 5th through 8th, 2026 in the Denver, Colorado area. Teaming up with law firm architects, Power Strategy Group, we're going to be having an amazing opportunity for up to 15 firms to work on the business, not in the business. Find out more at powerstrategygroup.com.
So I have Sam Hamiel here, who is the Chief of Staff at Neostella. We're still here at NeoSummit. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So one of the things here at NeoSummit is you have these, I think you call them VIP roundtables. I really like that model. I go to a lot of conferences. That's not usually typical.
Yeah.
But one of the ones that you led yesterday was about change management, actually, right?
Yes. It was all about change management and adoption and how to keep your teams trusting you, productivity high, morale high when you're disrupting essentially their day to day.
Yeah. I mean, there's actual experts in change management. But like we're sort of just making the stuff up usually a lot at law firms, and trying to get people navigating through this. What were some of the key takeaways or some of the discussion? Because, yesterday in some of the panels, they mentioned, the employee doesn't want to change. What was that brought up?
That was brought up, and a lot of people were like, I have someone who's been with the firm for 20 years and they are like, I want to do it this way. And we actually had someone bring up in the discussion, they were like, I have that problem too, but I also have the problem of my Gen Z 23-year-old who's like, you want me to learn and train and do this thing to do the job that you're paying me for? I'm not doing that.
Oh my goodness.
So it's on the flip side of
Yeah.
the spectrum where, you've got this younger now generation coming into this workforce, trying to figure out how to get them on board, who it's interesting because they're familiar with technology.
Yeah, exactly. Like they were almost born with it around.
Right.
Yeah.
Like an iPhone in their hand.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, they're just like, I don't know how to now use this in my work life and not in a social aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So getting both sides of the spectrum on board was a topic of conversation.
Like they think it's more segregated. Like I do this at home on my own time,
Right.
but I don't want to have to do this in the work setting.
It's interesting.
I've had a lot of conversations about teaching law students, because I'm an adjunct, about AI and tech, and honestly, just how it's a disservice if the school isn't providing that, incorporating it in the education. But it sort of reminds me of what we were talking with Brian earlier about the legal and tech engineer.
Yeah.
Engineer. I'm still learning all the terms, but it's like that's a component that we have to have as a law firm owner. We need to understand the tech, or enough to, or hire somebody who does, but then be able to keep an eye on it. And while we have to be adaptable and be willing to change as well.
Definitely. And I think there was a session yesterday with Tracy Litt and David Lester.
Uh-huh.
And David did a really good job of talking about that, of if you're not embracing AI, you're not growing, right? Because it's not going anywhere. And you could potentially use that to better an employee or better some of your change management process.
Mm-hmm. So
finding the way that it works within your firm, I think, is super important, especially in the ways of change management and documentation.
You mentioned before we started that you used to be a paralegal in litigation.
Yes, I was a litigation paralegal. I started off in personal injury. I ended up somehow in high-profile family law divorce cases.
Interesting.
Which was quite a change. It was actually probably one of my favorite jobs, just because of the stories I got out of that job. Wow. But I did start in the medical, the PI and MedMal.
This episode is sponsored by Candle AI, the legal email assistant that helps legal teams spend less time on client emails. You heard me right, spending less time on emails. Candle AI works with both Gmail and Outlook, so you don't have to learn a new tool. And then it connects with popular case management systems like Clio, FileVine, NeoSummit, and more to come. It instantly shows you your case and the client details the moment you open a client email and right inside your inbox. And then that means less context switching and time spent jumping to different tabs to figure out what you need to respond. Candle can also draft context-aware responses to client emails and makes it easy to create, edit, and manage your email templates. If you want to save time and take back control of your inbox, check out Candle AI. I highly suggest it.
So how does that background help you? I'm guessing it helps you in the role that you're in now.
Yeah, I actually started as an implementer of legal software, and I really got into legal because I wanted to help people. And I had a personal connection with how I ended up in family law. I wanted to work with guardian ad litems to have kids of divorce have a voice. And on the flip side, when I ended up in legal tech, I was like, I'm still helping people. It's just in a very different mindset, right?
Yeah.
And now in a chief of staff role, I'm more so the interconnector between the entire business of making sure things are efficient and how are our processes documented and how are our people doing the thing to help a law firm then go on and help their clients. So a lot of my job is change management and a lot of it is inner teachings within the business itself.
Well, that's fascinating, but I think that's great that you know how a law firm works from your experience. I think sometimes law firm owners usually, well, they might promote a legal assistant up into management over time if they get it and they have more of that leadership or management role skill set. And the ones who can do that and who have a background of knowing how the law works or the law firm works, I think that they are sometimes some of the best people to help in implementing some of these types of changes.
I would agree with that. And I think something that I am proud of with myself is I'm coming at this from a customer perspective. So even though it's internal and I'm helping, Neostella figure out their business processes, I'm looking at it from a customer lens of, well, this is why a customer would want this, or this is why the software should do this thing, because that's what a firm is looking for. So I do think that my background of being a paralegal has helped a lot in that regard.
What would be like a really practical, granular advice you have for law firm owners or those listening who are trying to guide their firm through change right now?
Tracy said this yesterday, and I was like, we need to bring this internal. She said, getting to know yourself and how you're dysregulated and how it comes across. Because if you don't understand why something is flustering you, how are you then going to implement that change within your team? I loved that because a lot of people don't know why they're flustered, and a lot of people don't know how to go about change when they don't know how to handle it themselves. So I think figuring out for yourself, what is this change? Why do I need it? And communicating that to your team, massive help. Explain the why. People get really nervous when they don't know the why.
Yeah, I agree. I went through a big case management shift a few years ago, and I tried to do it back before that, like in 2019, and it was a disaster because I went to a conference, saw this product, came back and said, we're changing everything. And that just did not go well. And so then the next time I was like, we still need to change, I had to get more buy-in, and okay, you guys choose the program, what do you want to do?
I think that's important though, listening to people. Actually in the roundtable yesterday, someone said they do one time a month. They do open office hours with their leadership. Their leadership comes on Zoom and anyone can join and present, I'm struggling with this thing. And this is why, and this is what I need, and blah, blah, blah. And then leadership reviews it. And it makes the people who are doing the day-to-day job feel heard.
Yeah.
And then it is still reviewed and there is a process for priorities. But I was like, I actually really love that idea of you're listening to the people and they feel like they have a say.
Right.
They have some buy-in.
Yeah, we've done that periodically, but I think that we're not consistent with that. And sometimes it'll be in a performance review evaluation, but if those aren't as frequent, but being able to have sort of the suggestion box, if you will, a way to release the valve of And you know what I've also noticed is that sometimes team members will just silently suffer and like, or they don't know how to use a program or something, and then they're just doing it really wrong, even though you feel so like, I give you all this cool stuff.
Right.
You know,
Wait, I think people they get nervous to say something.
That's true.
You know,
Yeah.
like there's uncertainty can kind of cause paralysis, and it's I think making them feel psychologically safe to say something is super important.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Being able to tell them that you are open to suggestions, because if there's some firms that the culture is just shut up and don't say anything,
right?
Because you might get in trouble for saying it could be done better,
right?
And I really try to make sure that my team knows that, you know, we don't believe that. We believe in like, say something, tell us, but you know, having an outlet, having a way to do that, I think that's really important.
Yeah,
so that's a good piece of advice. Well, you know, the other thing that you were mentioning was just that the partner ecosystem, and you know, I was talking with Brian earlier about just sort of how there's some programs out there that just are like are becoming like an all-in-one, and then there's others that are open to integrating and playing with others, you know. So I mean, tell me more from that partner ecosystem space.
I think the partner ecosystem, our philosophy is a lot like our customer philosophy, and they pair together because customers should have choice. Mm-hmm. And so when we look at a partner ecosystem, we want to be inclusive because we want to build a really good core product. And the core is always going to keep evolving. We've been seeing legal tech is changing fast.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we change management. We all need to become experts on legal tech and change management.
Right. And how are you, if your core product is behind, and because you're focusing on all of the trends, it doesn't matter at the end of the day, right? So you need partners, you need people who do things really well. And our product's going to have things that are native to it, but having systems and people that you trust and connect with, and they can then connect and grow, is super important. And making sure that the core itself is great and allows people to connect is what's needed right now. And that's something that's fundamentally missing in this space. I think people are very closed off to the idea of opening things up and building an ecosystem. And for customers, there's a lot of that, well, we don't need this thing. We want to expand and do this. And I think giving them the choice is super important, because at the end of the day, it's their business. It's their data. It's their workflows. So giving them that opportunity, I think, is the most important thing.
I think it's also hard for some of these companies to try to be everything to everyone, especially because we have so many different practices, you know, and some of those companies were built on one particular case type, and so they see the world from that lens. But then when they try to acquire customers from other practice areas, they're just sort of making little tweaks here and there. But fundamentally, it could be a completely different workflow.
Right. And I think you talked with Brian a little bit earlier about this, but you talked about scalability. And without flexibility, you're not going to scale. And having, you know, at the firm, one person that does this one thing, it's not scaling.
Yeah.
That's one person can do this thing. If that person leaves, what do you have? So to your point, though, about having things be able to be flexible and not rigid is something that I think we are trying to do really well. And I hope we're here at NeoSummit, some of the conversations with vendors and partners, and that's a big thing for them.
Yeah. Now that's a really good point, because I think things are changing so fast that you don't want to be in a system that isn't changing fast enough, or doesn't give you the flexibility to acquire and add different programs and workflows that you see needed.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough because, you know, back to the change management, I bet a lot of people listening, they're just like, I need to change my case management software, but I don't want to because I'm busy, you know, and I don't have the right people to help me usher into that change. And so they're like, they just stay a little bit longer and stay a little bit longer.
Yes. And that is something we talked about yesterday too. You hear a lot of people who, one, not only do they not want to do it, but two, a lot of people are traumatized by changing systems.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing of like, how do I get my team on board? How do I keep morale high? How do I make sure that what I'm being told by, you know, a vendor or whoever is truthful, and that I'm taking that to my team so they they continue to trust me and I can keep them productive, and how does this work for them? So a lot of one, they don't want to. It's a big change. It's a lot of effort and time, but there's also some trauma apparently associated
No,
with changing.
there is, because if it's just like with usually comes up a lot in the management conversation about staffing and things like that. Usually they had a bad experience and then now they don't want to do XYZ or whatever, but yeah, I mean, I think going back to what Tracy mentioned, it's sort of a lot of like evaluating what are self-limiting beliefs, what's how do we self-regulate, knowing ourselves, like, and then I think that's just a key core as a leader in your firm. You need to know yourself and your strengths and weaknesses, and then how is that impacting your firm and making decisions or ushering in this change.
Right. And as a leader of a firm, are you actually promoting an open culture of change? Because I feel like if you're not constantly saying like things are going to change as we grow, or things are going to change as we X, Y, and Z, I think constantly kind of just having that reminder out there will help people too. But also how you internally speak about change is super important.
That's true. Like, I need to be taking notes. I was like, in theory, I believe in change. But am I
actually
am I walking
that?
the walk? And voicing that, because like in the beginning of the firm, sometimes I was one of the younger people in my team, and now I think I'm the oldest person in the probably in the firm. But I always was pretty digital as I did C++ in high school, and I built a website and that type of thing. And I was very adamant for my law firm that I was going to build up my own website in the beginning. But anyway, so I think that's helped me keep an eye on being, and I have lived in like 6 countries, so I am pretty comfortable with change, but sometimes you can get a little stagnant, I guess.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah. Well, it's been so great having you. And what, I guess, is there any other parting thoughts on change management, or, wisdom you have from being chief of staff of a big company?
I would say my first real big piece of change, was actually when I was a paralegal. I was really at a great firm when 2020 hit. And that was the first time I think the legal world really saw they're going to have to change.
Oh, yeah.
And, court went online, like all of that changed. And so I think it's not going away. I think being able to embrace this crazy journey of we're no longer with, red wells and paper files, and getting on board with how to really power up your practice would it be
thanks for that
smart.
Plug.
Absolutely. Is going to be the way that your firm grows. So just be open to it.
No, I agree. Like, I think that was one of the best things that came out of the pandemic, was like it helped shake the legal market, and a lot of it was also we were reactionary to like courts and government.
Absolutely.
And like I remember immigration court, some of the judges didn't even have like a laptop, and so they had to pause for a little while. And and it was only a couple of years before the pandemic that they actually started recording digitally. Before they had the still cassette tapes that nobody could. They had to. Anyway,
you couldn't access.
You couldn't. They'd send you a tape, and you're like, "What do I do with that?"
Right.
Anyway, but yeah. So I was really grateful, because having run my law firm from Dubai in 2011, like I was like, "Okay, you guys are finally joining the rest of the world into being digital and remote," because the technology was there. It's just the mindset, and we needed everybody to get on.
Mindset shift.
Yeah. So we're going through that right now. This last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. Things have changed dramatically.
Yeah. We're definitely in that like inflection point.
Are you feeling overwhelmed by all the different things you have to do to run a law firm? Well, you're not alone. So many law firm owners are in the same boat. That's where Staffy steps in. More than 90 firms just like yours are leaning on their bilingual virtual staff for legal, administrative, marketing, and client-facing work, plus their full HR support. I currently have 11 team members with Staffy across my own firm and Power Strategy Group, and it's been a total game changer. Schedule a free initial consultation at staffy.cc, that's stafi.cc, and use the code RUBY, RUBY, for $500 off.
How can people find you and stay in touch?
I am on LinkedIn as Samantha Hamiel.
Okay.
And you can find me there.
All right. Well, thanks for letting me have you for a few minutes. I know it's the middle of the buzz of the NeoSummit, and we're going to continue to have day 2. So
Thank you
looking
so
forward
much
to
for
it.
having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to Power Up Your Practice. I'm Ruby Powers, and it's been a pleasure sharing this time with you. We love your reviews. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us one and share this podcast with someone else so that they can know what you've been learning on our show. And make sure to check out the Power Up Your Practice book. It's available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon. It's packed with 25 chapters of strategies to grow and streamline your firm. And we also have the free Power Hub community on School to keep the conversation going in between the episodes. So make sure to keep powering up your practice, and we'll see you next time.